Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the show. It's so great to be here with you today on this Motivation and Mindset Monday, where we are going to be going over the 1% rule. This is a specific goal-achieving principle that absolutely changed my life when I discovered it and was able to really break it down and implement it in my own life in a much easier fashion. That is what I want to teach you today. But I also want you to keep in mind that most of us, I think, have our dreams, have our goals, but we're held back in some way. That is not uncommon at all. If you're at home right now or in your car listening to this podcast and you're thinking to yourself, I've tried to achieve my goals before, I know a little bit more about what I want, but I'm really holding myself back from dreaming big and really going for it, I want you to know that you are not alone in that. That is how most people think, myself included, because when we look at our goal, sometimes it seems way off, it's distant, it's so far away into the future that we can't really imagine ourselves achieving it. Now, that is the specific point, though, where most people stop. You simply think to yourself, this goal is something I do want. I do want to have this in my life. I want to embody this, whatever it may be. But you stop there because it seems like it's so far outside of you. What we need to do today is teach you very specifically and very simply how to make that goal a part of you and how not to make it so overwhelming that you don't even get started in the first place. Because a lot of times when we think about our goals, there's two ways to really think about it. And the first one is that you might kind of break down the problem yourself and really look at it and say, okay, these are the activities that I need to do in order to achieve my goal. And you might say, well, I don't really have time for these activities. Like, that's a very normal excuse, because how many of us have extra time in our day that we can just dedicate to achieving new things or doing new things where we don't want to forget about the old because we need to keep up with that as well. Or sometimes we think about the activities, the tasks, or the actions that we need to take in order to achieve our goals. And some of them might seem kind of boring or monotonous, or just saying like, I don't really want to do those things in order to achieve that goal. Sure, I want the goal, I want to have that thing, but I don't really want to do these activities in order to achieve it. That's completely normal as well. But there's another part to that. And that other part is really looking at your goal as something that might be too enormous. That's just too big when you look at it. Like, for example, if someone needs to lose 50 pounds or 100 pounds, we work with a lot of people in our practice besides wellness, also on weight loss. And when someone looks at 50 or 100 pounds, they might say, well, that's a lot of weight to lose. I don't know how it's ever going to happen. And it just seems too big, too outside of them. They don't really comprehend how that would ever happen. So that stops them from really going after that as well. And this is why, though, so many of us never achieve our potential. We're held back not by the desire to achieve our goal, but actually by thinking about how we will go about achieving it. How can we really embody our hopes and our dreams? So there's a much easier way of thinking about this, and that's what I want to bring to you today. So there's this concept called the 1% rule, and I don't know who necessarily came up with it. There's a 1% rule in real estate and investing and all that. We're not talking about that here today. We're talking about the 1% rule in your life in order to be able to achieve anything that you want. So becoming a better student, a better learner, a better partner in your relationship, losing weight, getting healthy, anything that you desire, you can achieve those things. I've spoken on this topic before, but I'm very passionate about it because the reason is that obviously my practice is in wellness and weight loss and anti-aging. That's what I specialize in. But you could take this outside of that and work on self-improvement, work on relationships, work on your career. You know, we have a lot of people at the Integrative Health Practitioner Institute, and they're wanting to become certified health coaches. Obviously, now is the best time ever to become a health coach because what? Well, because the whole world has woken up to, if you have a chronic dis-ease of the body, you are much more susceptible to all of the different viruses and antigens around us. So we have to start living healthier lives. There's no doubt about that. But so career-wise, you might say, well, that's what I want to do, but I don't know how I would ever get there. Well, you can start to use this 1% rule. I'm going to give you examples in just a moment. But the 1% rule is this. It's really about getting 1% better per day. That's it. Like literally, I don't need you to change or revolutionize who you are or revolutionize and completely change up your daily routine in one day. All I want is this tiny, tiny improvements over the next day. And then over the next day and continuing on from there. So all it is about in Japan, and I love studying ancient martial arts principles and ancient Japanese-based principles or Asian-based principles in general. And it's this principle too of Kaizen, and I've talked about that before. And it's almost like a warrior-based mentality where, let's think about like martial arts. You're a white belt. So when I started in martial arts when I was 16 years old, I was a white belt, and I knew as little as anyone. I've loved watching martial arts-based movies, and that's basically what I knew, which was nothing. Like, that's what it is in the movies. So I started to learn more about it, and I started to become more interested. And I also looked at the process like, okay, these are the techniques that you need to master in order to then get your yellow belt. And then from a yellow, you need to master these techniques to become an orange, and so on and so forth, all the way to achieving your black belt. So again, I love martial arts. I love the process. And what I learned through that was, well, I need to be practicing these things in order to not just show up at class once a week or twice a week and practice them. These are the things that I need to be doing. And just like anyone else, even in high school, playing sports, trying to do well in school, study for SATs, like all those different things back in the day, who has time to practice martial arts? It's like one more thing. But what I realized was I didn't need to practice martial arts for an hour a day. I wasn't looking to go to the Olympics. I was looking to master these few techniques that would eventually then allow me to get to that next level. And that's really how we need to be thinking about life. It's not about necessarily heroic efforts or becoming an Olympian or, even the top 1% in what you do. It's becoming good enough so that you get to enjoy the life that you've always wanted. For me, with this podcast or with my practice, it's not like I set out to say, I need to be the very best in this, this, and this. No. It's, I would love to be able to reach this many people a day. And for podcasting, I started out as that. And I'll just share this story, which my goal so basically I had opened up my second location in Boston, and I was really excited about that. And within a year, we were doing another basically 1,000 appointments or so per month, and really excited because I got to work with so many people, not just in Boston, but people would fly in and from different cities, and we get to meet with them as well. And we go through all these different protocols, and it was fantastic. And I loved it, no doubt about it. But my goal was never to open up more and more locations. That was never my theme. My theme was to always to be, how can I teach? And so I said, let me start this podcast. And I started it in 2016. And it was the goal of simply being able to say, okay, we're basically we're doing 20,000 appointments a year. So what if I could reach, though, 20,000 people a day? And it was an absurd goal back then. It really was. I mean, that was just like, hey, what if I could do that? It's going to be a free podcast. Can I reach that many people in a day? And like, that would make me feel, okay, now you don't need to open up more locations because you're doing what you're doing now. You're open sourcing it. You're really enabling anyone who wants to learn more about functional medicine to learn about functional medicine or really integrative health for free. And so that's what I set out to do. And in the very beginning, maybe 100 people would listen a day, right? That's it. Like, I didn't have any marketing team. Today, we don't even market the podcast as well. But, thinking about that, there was nothing. And then it grew a little bit and grew a little bit. And all I tried to do was show up every day. So it's always been a daily podcast. I think actually the first 3 months it was essentially a podcast and then a little Q&A and then the weekends off. And we just said, okay, let's make it shorter and let's do one podcast a day. And so that's what I've done. And it's really just 1% forward, 1% forward. And it wasn't overnight. I think it was maybe like 2 years or 3 years in, let's say 3 years in, that I then reached 20,000 people per day, and it's continued to grow to about 1 million different people or 1 million different listens per month. And that's been really exciting for me because my passion has always been teaching. I mean, really, like, that's what I've always loved to do. And I'm excited to have been able to do that. But I would never have stuck with it if I saw this as an enormous process and that I needed to reach this final point of whatever it might be. So for me, the 1% rule in everything has taught me that you're never going to know everything that you want to know in order to get started. So we just kind of have to get that off the table. table. You're just not going to know. So let's say you want to lose 50 pounds, 100 pounds. You don't know. You're just not going to know everything that you need to lose even the last 10 pounds that you're going to struggle with, whatever it might be right now. But the only way to learn how to lose that last 10 is to lose the first 40. And the only way to learn how to lose the first 40 is to start now. Learn what's working and what's not working for you and your body type. And you may have to change things up along the way, but you'll never even know that if you simply just don't get started, right? I mean, that's such a big part of this is the getting started, and getting started is the hurdle. That's the only hard part of this process. Because if you look at it, this is said by many, many people. I think James Clear was one person to say this as well. He wrote the book Atomic Habits. We talk a lot about the research and the different work in terms of habits inside of our Integrative Health Practitioner, inside of Mastery, where we teach a lot of these things. And I'll share with you the 5-minute rule in just a moment. But basically, it's always the getting started that's the big hurdle. Because if you do almost nothing, like just a tiny change, just 1% improvement each day, at the end of the year, you are 37% better. Now, again, even that to me, I think that's fantastic. Like that's a huge jump from where you were. And the first year you're learning so much, and that might be enough to achieve your goal, to be honest with you. Like that might be enough, but you are almost 100% by the second year, because things start to compound exponentially. So my goal for you is just to say, how can we get started? One of our favorite ways in IHP Mastery is we teach that 5-minute rule to a lot of wellness-based clients or weight loss clients. And it's simply like, I know that you don't want to start, well, let's say you're a student studying for it. Just say, okay, I'm only going to study for 5 minutes and I can always stop after that if I want to. Like that's a nice little out for yourself. Or I don't really want to exercise today. Okay, no big deal. Just get started for 5 minutes. You can stop after 5 minutes. Like give yourself the out, but just do it for 5 minutes. You can always stop after 5 minutes. It's a big part of it. But also think about what that 5 minutes is going to be. Like make it also not a big hurdle to do that. You're not going to say, well, I'm just going to do 5 minutes of Tabata sprints, because that's pretty intimidating. But think about it. How can we use the 1% rule for weight loss? Well, very simply put, what's the quickest way to achieve weight loss goals? It's through nutrition. So if you haven't looked at the nutrition part first, well, look at nutrition. And you could say, well, what's the easiest thing to do in terms of nutrition in order to lose weight? And to me, it always has been, look at the calories that you're consuming and the quality of your beverages. If you are drinking artificial sweeteners or sweetened beverages, or beverages that glow in the dark, basically food dyes, we need to eliminate that, right? So take your energy drinks, take your what else would it be? Vitamin waters, all of those things, and just say, I'm only going to drink my, 1 coffee in the morning, 1 tea in the morning, whatever it might be, and I'm only going to drink water from then on out. Now, a smoothie would be okay. Those like whole food things are okay. But you might say to yourself, well, I don't like water. I know I should be drinking more water, and that is the truth. You should be getting about half your body weight in water per day. But let's just say you're not going to drink water. Okay, then let's at least bridge that gap with doing herbal tea. Could you do a ginger tea with meals? Could you do a hibiscus tea between meals? Can you do those types of things that you would enjoy that would allow you then to say, okay, I'm going to substitute my energy drink for this. And it might just be a weaning off process, but those are things that you can do that are going to make a monumental difference in your overall nutrition. Once you start to stabilize blood sugar levels to a much greater degree, well, hormone levels are going to get better, inflammation levels are going to get better. You're not going to be producing as much insulin. The cells are going to become more receptive. So that's a great first place to start. So you might even say, well, that's kind of even a big jump. Well, I would say, okay, let's just replace 1 beverage this week. That's it. Maybe you're mid-afternoon. Let's just switch that to an herbal tea, or carry around a liter of water. I need to finish this liter of water by the end of the day. So one of those things can be part of your 1% change. Again, not a huge change. Accomplish that. And then you can say, okay, and then what's my next thing I can move forward on in terms of nutrition? And that might be, switching out the muffin in the morning, the cereal in the morning for a smoothie. Okay, now your body's getting all that nutrition it needs. So we'll talk about maybe more about that in a moment, but Let's switch gears for a moment. All those people out there that know they should be exercising to maintain a healthy body weight, for anti-aging, all of those different things. They say, yeah, but I don't want to go to the gym right now, and I don't want to hire a personal trainer. I don't want to do any of those things. So, okay, I understand. But if you're not walking right now, I know that you're probably walking some steps per day, but if you haven't worked up to 10,000 steps per day walking, that is the place to start. You don't need to do high intensity interval training or boot camps right now or ever if you don't want to, but you do need to start walking. And that's a great first place. You might say, well, I'm not able to walk 10,000 steps per day. Listen, I understand if you're walking, what the average is about 3,000, 3,500 steps per day. Don't jump right to 10,000. Go to 4,500. Okay, it's 10 more minutes of walking a day. 10 more minutes of just getting out there after lunch, after dinner, or just being more conscious of walking. You can get 10 more minutes of walking in there. And if you're able to do that every single day, well, then that's a nice little improvement. You might say, well, that's not really that big a deal. And I would say, yeah, it's probably not that big a deal in the long run, but it's a big deal to do it today in order to then accumulate even more each and every day, right? So one day of walking 10,000 steps, not a big deal. But if you do that over the course of the week, that 10,000 steps or even that 1,000 steps extra is 7,000 steps extra per week. You get to 10,000 steps, well, now you're at what? 70,000 steps per week. Like that makes a real difference in 1 week. Again, maybe not as much. 2 weeks, a month, over a year, it makes an enormous difference. It really does. So we have to look at this Kaizen-based approach, this 1% rule of getting slowly and slightly better each and every week. And I know that you can do that. In terms of overall health, I try to give people all these different tips and just say, okay, just start with this, just start with that. But honestly, the thing that I've seen work the best is just to say, whatever you're doing right now for breakfast, replace it with a smoothie. And if you're worried about all of the fruit and all of those different things, just put in 1 cup then of frozen berries, whatever you like. It's easy to keep it in the freezer. Put in your daily nutritional support. Take some omega-3s. Like, do the things that healthy people would do or get from their diet. And that's why we say we do something in our practice called the Daily Foundational Protocol Level 2. Of course, you could do Level 3, but just starting out, do Level 2. And what you get is you get all of your omegas, you get your daily probiotic, you get your daily fruit and vegetable blend, which is 22 organic fruits and vegetables in a powder, none of the sugar. And you get the daily nutritional support, which is all your vitamins, your minerals, 15 grams of hypoallergenic plant-based protein, all of those things. And you just put it in breakfast. And so basically you get all the nutrients that you need for the day, and it's done at breakfast. So it's simple, and then you don't have to worry about it for the rest of the day. And you might say, well, how is that going to help my X, Y, and Z-based disease or chronic-based health condition? Well, I would say is now it's beginning to give your body all the nutrients that it needs to have a fighting chance. And yes, you'll probably have to do some more specific things, but it's a great place to start. And all it is a 1-for-1 exchange for one breakfast you're currently doing for another breakfast that you were doing. Like that's it. For this, take this daily foundation protocol and substitute it for your current breakfast. All you're doing is saying, I'm going to eat breakfast. Well, let me just switch this for a month. Much healthier choice. And that's just one thing. Okay, how long does it take to make a smoothie? Maybe 5 minutes tops. That's it. So it's super simple and not very expensive. So that can be one thing that you do for your health. One more that I wanted to give you today is this. If you're looking to improve in any area of your life and you're looking to do self-improvement, the biggest thing I recommend is spending just, I would say, 30 minutes per day. It can be broken up for 10 minutes in the morning while you're getting ready in the morning, 10 minutes at lunch, and then 10 minutes before bed or so. That's it. And one of the best ways is to read, right? Don't read an article, go in depth, read books. Books contain depth. Articles contain just shallow thinking. A lot of people are just sending popular marketing things through. I saw this crazy one today. Someone wrote on why you shouldn't take Ayurvedic herbs, and all it was marketing based. Like that's it. Like you have to understand is like all of these things, you have to get depth. I want you to get depth. I want you to understand all the wisdom from all of these different things, whether it be improving your career, your relationships, your spirituality, your health, your weight loss. There are levels to this, and you don't get to learn the deeper levels without going a little bit more in depth. So by reading 10 pages a day, Is that a huge deal? No. Are you going to like revolutionize your knowledge in one day with 10 pages? No. You'll probably pick up some great tips, but it's not going to be revolutionary. However, at the end of a month, if you read 10 pages a day, well, that's one more book, might even be 1.5 books. Okay. So then what is that over the course of a year? Well, it's a dozen books in what you are looking to get better in and achieve your goal. And if you read a dozen books to again, like what if it's 1.5 a month, 18 books a year on that particular topic? Believe me, you are or would be considered an expert on that topic. Are you at the highest level? Maybe not. I don't know. But like the truth is, if you read a dozen books on any topic, such as the thyroid, female hormones, inflammatory foods, you would know pretty much what you need to know. Like that's the truth, right? But how are you going to get there? How are you going to read all 12 books? Well, it seems like an enormous task to do. But the truth is this, you don't need to read all 12 at once. All we're asking you today is to read 10 pages. And if you're, again, like the average person, and you're just reading, again, at a just slower rate, 3 minutes per page, well, it's going to take you 30 minutes. 10 pages upon waking, 10 pages at lunch, 10 pages before bed. You can do, 3 pages upon waking, 3 at lunch, and 3 before bed. That's going to get you about 10 pages per day. That's enough to read a book a month. And again, if the book's 200 pages, well, you're going to be able to read more than one book a month. So this is the way, though, to accomplish anything. It's to take these bite-sized chunks. So the last part to this is, again, use that 5-minute rule. If you're not interested, just say, I'm just going to do it for 5 minutes. That's it. I'm just going to ease into it. It's a great way to play tricks on your own mind. And the last part I would say is this. Again, a lot of these activities is like, well, this is such a slow process. It is, but momentum builds. So in the beginning, like, oh, it's just a little bit of walking, but that walking then leads to, whoa, I'm getting pretty good at walking. Let me try some cardio. I'm getting pretty good at cardio. Why don't I try some body weight exercises? You begin to build off of that. Okay, I'm doing water only or herbal teas only, and I'm seeing great benefits. I'm actually feeling more energy. My skin's looking clear, all these different things. Like, all right, let me try to clean up my breakfast. Let me try to make that smoothie. Let me try that daily foundational protocol. All right, let me try reading those books. And again, all small habits, but what do? Right? As they say, tiny habits lead to enormous changes in your life. Tomorrow, no. Next week, probably not. Next month, getting better. What about at the end of this year? Enormous changes. Like you may not even recognize the person that you are today. And I'll tell you the truth, that if your goal is worth it, if your dreams are worth it, then putting in that 1% today is going to make all the difference. So what I need you to have now is just a little bit of faith that if you begin to take these small steps, sometimes monotonous, that's okay, right? They can be just programmed into our daily routine. If you begin to take those small steps today, that you have faith that at the end it will happen for you, then you'll get past the difficult part, which is first those 21 days, that 2 months or so of just making it part of your routine. I truly believe that you deserve to live the life of your dreams. And to get there, I hope that you begin to implement this 1% rule starting this week. Thank you everyone so much for tuning in today. I appreciate you. And of course, if this show was helpful, please do feel free to share it with anyone you believe it could serve.